guys ready? Are you ready for a message? I want you to turn to somebody and tell them you ain't ready. I need you to turn to the other side and say you should be ready because you probably need this message. There's a lot of talking going on, okay? All right, real quick, just a real touch. Galatians chapter 6, verse 4 is our series verse. Just to kind of go over, here's what it says. It says, pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourselves to anyone else. For we each are responsible for our own conduct. So this month, guys, we've been going through Judges. We've been going through the story of Samson, right? And Samson, his story, does it not just play out like a movie? Okay, is it not just crazy? Like there's some stuff that we're going to go in tonight. So if you got your Bibles with you and you want to go ahead, does anybody actually bring a real Bible? I'm going to ask that. That's what I'm talking about. Girls, always date a guy that has a real Bible. Glowing Bibles are awesome, but I think, have the living word, okay? Not a word that dies when your battery dies, okay? Have a living word. Keeps open, all right? But we're going to continue. So go ahead and turn to Judges chapter 16, okay? So look, we're going to treat this kind of like a movie that's split, okay, in half. Like everybody gets mad because the very last movie always gets split into two movies. But that's unfortunately what we're going to do here tonight, okay? We're going to split chapter 16 into two messages, and I'm going to go over tonight. We're going to look at something a little different from Samson and where he's at. But real quick, as we jump into that, how many of you guys have had moments in your life where you just feel like you have no strength at all? Like you feel like I'm done. Like I am like hands are going around me. I should ask this during finals week, right? Like you guys, is it this? Just real quick, clarify. Is it this week or next week? Some week, this week. Raise your hand if you need prayer. Raise your hand if you literally need to get like 110% to pass a class. Oh God. Guys, we gotta be the student ministry that's got some good grades in here, okay? Okay? But how many of you you've had those moments, right, where you just had those moments where no matter how hard you try, you just feel weak. And I'm not always talking about physically. I'm not talking about muscle fatigue. I'm not talking about how much you can lift or how much you can bench press. I'm talking like your soul just feels physically weak. Is that any of you guys? Is that pretty much right now? Is that pretty much how you guys are? Like you're exhausted, you're tired. That's where you're at. Do your emotions, do they just feel empty right now? Like you're like, I'm just numb. Like, I'm just keep going? Is that what you're just here, right? Like, like, I'm just done. I'm tired. I'm literally just sitting here. So, but guys, have you ever thought real quick to yourself, a lot of times the reason that we feel that way, sometimes it's our own behavior, right? Like, I know you guys are tired. I know some of you guys, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do well. But let's just be honest for a moment. How many of you didn't study as much as you should have at the beginning of the semester okay? Right? Right? So what that means is, guys, sometimes we think to ourselves, I should have done better than that. I've put myself in this situation. Sometimes you may be a little bit cocky. You may say, like, look, I don't need to study. I got this. Like, I listened in class. Like, I took some notes. Like, I half heard a conversation, right? Like, I half heard what's going on. So sometimes we feel like we know better, right? Like, we feel like we know the way it's supposed to be. When Emily and I, before we got married, Emily... And this is one of the reasons I dated her. I'm just throwing this out there. But Emily was driving a very, very tricked out, very nice Camaro. That has been traded in for a soccer mom car. We traded that in when we got ready Friday. Yeah, it's gone. But Emily had this like burnt orange Camaro. Like I'm talking like it was probably brand new. I don't know. It was just the basic model. It wasn't anything quick. But it was fast, okay? See, Emily's from Podunk, Morris, Alabama, middle of nowhere. Like, guys, they have Coke cans hanging from their porches as wind chimes, okay? Same thing for Pastor Brandon. That's where he and Emily came from, okay? Like, they rode to school on horses. It's literally like they do nothing but tip cows for fun. That's how they spend their Friday nights, okay? This is where they're from. The best part about it, unfortunately, anytime we went to visit, I loved to drive her car because I, unfortunately, sped a little bit more than I should have, okay? A little bit back roads, back and forth. And I loved driving that car. Emily always told me, she's like, Adam, you can't speed back here. Like these backwoods police officers, like they don't play, okay? Like they don't care. If they don't know you, like if your mama's cousin's brother didn't all grow up together, like you're in trouble. Like they don't know who you are, okay? And so one time we had just left her mom's house. We were heading back to take her back to her apartment. And we get into the main street of Morris, Alabama, which you guys know Main Street. Guys, is lit, okay? It's as big as this room. It has one water fountain in the middle, okay? She literally has one stoplight in the city, okay? We get past that stoplight, we get to where there's a stop sign, and I start to like just kind of slow down. Does anybody know who recently took the test? What's that called? A California stop and roll? Like you literally don't stop at the stop, you just kind of roll to it. She's like, you better stop here. She's like, if you don't stop at the light, if you don't stop at the sign, you're gonna get pulled over. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm enjoying this car. So I get up, I kind of slow, and then I just go. And can you guys guess what happened literally 15 seconds later? Whoop, whoop. You hear it from the back. Unfortunately, guys, if you're in my position, you should know my pride was very small at this point because I was very upset that my soon-to-be wife at that time was right, okay? She's like, I told you should. She's looking at, how many of you guys ever gotten that look from your mom or somebody that you're dating when you've done something stupid? They're just like, that's exactly where my wife was. Exactly where my wife was. She's just sitting in the side seat like this. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to stare at you. So we get to that. We get pulled over. He comes, and this dude is like country, guys. He's like, can I see your license and registration, please? And this is exactly how Scott McClendon, sound like Scott McClendon. So he's like, can I see your license and registration, please? So I pull down, and he looks, and he goes, well, boy, you're not from here, are you now? And I'm like, because I had a Birmingham address. I said, no, sir, I'm here with my fiance. We're just hanging out. And she turns over and she goes, hey, hi, how are you? And he's like, you know why I pulled you over, right? He's like, did you not stop back there? I was like, well, see, here's the thing. She leans over and goes, I told him so. Just middle of it. Just throwing me, like, guys, just know, no matter how loyal you are, you're going to get, like, she's going to burn you, okay? Just know that comes. She's going to throw you under the bus, and she's going to love every minute of it. She threw me under the bus, and he's like, oh, so she told you to slow down, and you didn't do it. And I'm like, well, see, here's the thing was, and she just keeps going. This whole situation keeps going, and he starts telling me that I need to be better about it, that I need to stop, I need to do this, and he goes, well, I guess since you're not from around here, I might go ahead one time and give you this, I'll let you off of this one. So he goes back to his car, we roll up to the windows. You can imagine the conversation that was going on between my wife and I. She's back there grinning because she remembers every moment of this. Because this was one of those moments, guys, that you don't forget. These are one of those moments where you were wrong from the beginning, and I let my pride get the best of me. My wife tried to tell me, if you don't listen to me, this is going to happen. And you should have thought, like, I probably should have listened to the woman that spent her life in this town. Like, she knows this is going to happen, because as soon as I did, I remember her saying, you know, the police station is like 30 feet from here. And so I end up getting pulled over. But you guys think about how many times in your life where you just feel prideful about something and you just kind of get cut out at the knees so quickly, right? Like you just get brought down to your knees because you think you know exactly how something could be. And think about Samson. So imagine this. So we've seen all these crazy things go on in Samson's life. Up to this point in his life, has Samson not just been circled with drama, right? Like every decision he makes, everything he does, he is just circled in drama. And it feels like no matter what, at the base of everything, he's still prideful. Have you guys ever encountered somebody in school that no matter how many times they are wrong, they still think they're right? They still think they're right. They still think, I see you guys looking around the room right now like, hey, you remember this was you the other day? I know some of you are staring at me because this is me as well. I will not admit when I'm wrong, okay? This is true. But Samson, at this point, it's in his blood. And you got to think, too, everywhere Samson went, he made enemies with someone. Here, I want you to check this. We're going to check this part. It's a real quick part from chapter 16. Here's what it says. It's in verse 1. I'm going to read you the version from the Message. It says, Samson went to Gaza and saw a prostitute. We already know this is not going the right direction, okay? This is not working out the way it's supposed to. Samson, you're built from God. He went to her. We're leaving it there. The news got around, Samson is here. They gathered around in hiding, waiting all night for him at the city gate, quiet as mice, thinking at sunrise we're going to kill him. He said Samson was laying in bed with a woman until midnight. Then he got up. Samson's in a really deep trouble. It says, then he got up. He seized the doors of the city gate and the two gateposts, bolts and all, hefted them up on his shoulder, and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. So again, I told you, this sounds like a movie. Imagine this guy. He's just made way too many mistakes. He's somewhere he's not supposed to be with someone he should never be with, and knows these guys are here to kill him. So to mock them because of his pride, because he thinks he's better than anybody else, he rips the doors of their city off and carries them to the top of a hill where he literally sticks them in the ground facing the city to do nothing but make fun of them and say, this is what I did. First of all, does anybody not think that this just screams a kid that's spoiled, right? Like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to rub it in your face. Secondly, is that when you see this, it just kind of is just a reminder of how much our pride can get to us at times. Samson is thinking like, this is what, you know what? I'm just going to take these doors because you guys are trying to kill me, and I'm just going to go take them all the way to the very top. So this dude is waiting for a whooping, okay? Does anybody know anybody in school that sometimes they do things that just irritate somebody, and you just say, you know what, one day you're going to find a dark alley, and you're going to find somebody that's a lot bigger than you, right? Like, Samson is waiting for a whooping. You know, when I was reading the story, you know what I imagined? Any of you got, like, the Christmas story where the bully gets beat up in the alley? This is kind of what I've imagined, is that at some point, Samson's going to just come across somebody that's better than him. Now, in his defense, they were waiting to kill him, okay? They were trying to kill him, so he was trying to defend himself. But again, he kind of brought himself to this situation. See, Samson lived his life that he could outlift anything, okay? I solve every one of my problems with my strength, okay? That's the only way that I solve any issue that I come against, is that I am stronger than anybody else, okay? I can bench more. I'm invincible. Nobody can beat me. Like, I'll do all these things. I will mock you and carry the doors of your city to the top of a hill and stick them there so all you can do is look. That's how Samson chose to live his life. And so what it was is every time he did this, guys, the enemy is looking for a way to weaken you. The enemy is looking for a way to weaken who you are. I want you guys to write this down. Here's what we're looking at. Here's what we're going to kind of center this message around tonight, is that Satan is always looking to take your greatest strength and turn it into your greatest weakness. Satan is always looking for your greatest strength to turn it into your greatest weakness. You have to think, Samson, that's what he was known for. Samson was known for being strong, and the enemy, remember, it lives by what? It lives by 3 words. It's here for nothing but to kill, to steal, and to destroy. That's all it's here for. The enemy is just waiting for a moment to pounce on you, just waiting for you to mess up, waiting for you to do something, waiting for something that's going on in your life that's going to bother you, that you're going to take what you do and take what your strengths are and take what you're good at and allow it to weaken who you are. So what I want to do tonight, guys, is unlike Samson was never ready for this. Samson was never ready for when these things came. So I want to give you guys just a couple things that I thought, how is it that the enemy can weaken us? What does the enemy do to us to sometimes weaken where sometimes we're stronger? And so one of the things that I thought to my mind, first of all, temptation, right? Like, temptation is a way that the enemy tries to weaken who we are. The enemy does this through the things that you struggle with. The enemy knows what each and every one of you in this room struggle with. Maybe you struggle with anger. Anytime something happens, the first thing you do is fly off the handle, okay? That's my struggle. When anything goes wrong, instantly anger, instantly get mad. Maybe for something for you, things that you struggle with is maybe you struggle with just the opposite sex. Right? Maybe you struggle with going too far, doing things that you shouldn't do with the opposite sex. That's where your struggle is at. And it seems like every time the enemy's around, there's something, whether it's something that pops up on your Instagram, whether it's something you see on your Facebook, whether it's something you see on TV, whatever it is, you feel like, hey, I struggle with this. And it feels like it's there every single moment. Maybe you struggle with the words you use. No matter what you say, maybe like when you do get angry, maybe you end up letting out a few curse words when you shouldn't. Or maybe it's just not even like curse words. Maybe it's the way that you talk to people. Maybe it's the way that you treat people. It doesn't even have to be in anger. It can just be in your everyday life. It can be in people that maybe you're not fond of, but you treat them badly. It's how you talk. It's a struggle for you. Other things for some of you guys in here, it could be alcohol. It could be a problem. It could be going to parties or hanging out in places that you know you shouldn't. And these are different struggles that you see. But see, guys, the enemy makes these things readily available to you because they know doesn't matter how strong you are on the inside, that sometimes they can take that and use it to weaken who you are. It can use it to bring down who you are. So what we're going to see, if you guys want to jump down to verse 4 in chapter 16, here's what we're going to see. We're going to see Samson's story. And you know, guys, if it's funny, if you look through the whole chapter, what's the one thing at the base of everything that Samson does? Where's all his issues at? If you guys notice, it's always some woman, right? Like that's how everything started. Week 1, we talked about that. You see it in week 2. You're going to see it tonight as well. You're going to see that at some point, Samson has trouble with women. And that's where it seems that so much of what he does is where it comes down. It's because he continues to chase the wrong things. It's because he continues not to follow what God has called him to be. So look, go ahead and check down to verse 4. Here's what it says. It says, sometime later, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah, who lived in a valley of Sorek. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, entice Samson to tell you what gives him so strong and how he can be overpowered and tied up securely, that each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, please tell me what makes you so strong and what I could do to tie you up securely. Which you got to think, guys, that's also kind of a weird question. Hey, Samson, I just want to kind of know, what can we do to tie you up? You know, just if you were just shooting in the breeze here, like if there was any reason you lost your strength, how could I keep you tied up from doing anything? At some point, guys, red flag, okay? There's got to be a red flag somewhere. It says, if I were tied, here's what so Samson replies, right? This is probably most guys in the room. I'm gonna reply kind of smart aleckly. Here's what it says. Well, if I were tied up with 7 new bowstrings and have not been dried, I would become weak as anyone else. So the Philistine rulers bought Delilah 7 bowstrings, tied up Samson with them, had hidden them in the inner rooms, and then she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. But Samson snapped the bowstrings with a piece of string when he burned like fire. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. Afterwards, Delilah said to him, you got to imagine this woman like, you're making fun of me. You're telling me lies. Now please go and tell me how you can be tied up securely. Again, guys, at some point in Samson's life, he's just got to understand that this is like something weird's going on here. Like she's trying to find out how he can be tied up. So we see that. So consistently we see that he's tempted through this. We're going to see that as continually, we're going to see in this next part as we keep seeing Delilah comes to Samson, is trying to tempt him, is trying to mess who he is trying to do nothing more than to get him in. Here's what it says in verse 11. It says, Samson replied, if I were tied up with brand new ropes that had never been used, I would become weak as anyone else. So Delilah took new ropes, tied him up with them. The men were hiding in the inner room as before, and Delilah cried out, Samson, they've come to capture you. He says, but again, he snapped the ropes as his arms were thread. And Delilah says, again, you're making fun of me and you're telling me lies. Now tell me how you can be tied up securely. And again, one more time, he says, if you were to weave 7 braids of my hair into the fabric in the room, you'd be tied. Which, guys, first of all, it's just a very weird statement. Like, hey, tie my hair into the fabric of the room and I'll be weakened, okay? He says, I would become weak like anyone else. So while he slept, of course, Delilah does her thing, okay? So as you see that, so guys, each time that these things happen, Delilah tries to tempt him into saying, okay, all right, I'll forgive you for that one. Obviously, that was weird. So what's the next one? How do I trick you? Okay, how do I figure out where your strength is at? How do I figure out what's there? What ends up happening, guys, is that if you picture Delilah as the enemy, she's just trying to do everything she can to tempt him and to tell him. His strength is his secret, how he got it. And remember, he knows from his first day, but that's for him to know, and he doesn't supposed to share that because that's what the enemy is trying to find. If you guys kind of look at that, we talked so much in the first week, we talked about how, you know, the enemy is like a prowling lion, that it's here to track you down, that it's here to just pounce on you. If you guys, I was reading through, I'm like, how does a lion actually attack? What does it do? And as I was reading through, I came to find that, first of all, that lions will literally do nothing. They only hunt at night, okay? That's their best time. If they have to hunt during the day, it says that they will, but their best hunting times are at night. It says that the lion will literally lay there in the low of the grass, waiting it out, waiting for its prey to be at its weakest point, waiting for that one moment that all it has to do, because it even said that if a lion doesn't hit it just right, that a lion typically is not going to go back and try to catch it again, because they're actually not as quick as a lot of the animals that they try to feed on. So if you think about your life right now, think about where the enemy is at in your own life. The enemy is waiting for that exact precise moment to jump on you. The enemy is waiting for that one moment when you're at your weakest point, when life feels like it's falling apart, when everything's going bad at home, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe your school is terrible, maybe it's just whatever it is. The enemy is waiting for you to feel like you're at your very weakest point. And what it ends up doing, guys, is it just chips away. The enemy is just chipped, just like Delilah. She's kept coming back. She kept coming back. And every time you got to think, which again, guys, on her part, you'd have to think she's a little bit brighter about who she spends her time with, because he kind of mocked her every single time and lied to her every single time. But if you look at that, she just continued to chip away and chip away and chip away, because she knew if I just keep at it, he'll eventually tell me. But when we do that, when the enemy just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, what it's trying to do is to guilt us into that step, guilt us into becoming weak, guilt us into falling down. So that's the second thing that I look at, is that the enemy is trying to guilt us. Because look, when you're worn down, when you're tired, when you feel like I fought as much as I can, I feel like no matter what I do, I'm stuck in my situation. There's just no option. I'm here where I am. There's nothing I can do. Eventually, you're just going to feel guilty and just give in. Like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do anything. I feel bad. I can't figure out what to do. And it's going to guilt you into just eventually giving up. And here's what we see. I want you guys to jump down to verse 15. It says, then Delilah pouted. She pouted. How can you tell me I love you? It's like a movie, guys. When you don't share your secrets with me. She's like straight up. See what I'm talking about? Guilting him, okay? It says, you've made fun of me 3 times now, and you still haven't told me what makes you so strong. She tormented him with nagging day after day until he was sick to death of it. Sound like anything? Like eventually we're just going to give it, fellas. It's going to happen one day. You're eventually just going to give in because you're tired of it, okay? It says, finally, Samson shared his secret with her. My hair has never been cut, he confessed, for I was dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as anyone else. If you guys go back real quick, I want you to underline verse 16. Because you see what it says. If you're reading in the New Living Translation, it says right there, it says that she nagged him day after day after day. And think about your own life right now. When you have a situation that you know you struggle with, does it not feel like the enemy is just beating you down over and over and over? Have you just ever had those days where one thing goes wrong after another, after another, after another, until you say to yourself when you know you shouldn't, like nothing else, like this day can't get any worse. Like nothing else can go wrong. And then what happens 5 minutes later? Your day gets worse. Your day just has completely fallen apart. And that's what we see, guys. So here's what we look. First and foremost, guys, back in the day, unfortunately, it looked like it was hard to find a faithful woman, okay? Samson had struck out 3 times, okay? Samson has not done very well with anything he found. But eventually, guys, the enemy finds a crack in your armor. The enemy finds a crack in your armor, because that's exactly what happened to where Samson was, that eventually, after day after day after day, he gave in and told her the secret because he was just sick of hearing it. So what have you guys, where in your life right now, where in your life have you given up something because you just felt guilted into where you are? Where in your life right now have you felt that the enemy just beat you down over and over and over again until eventually you get to the point where you just give in and you just let go and you say, you know what? I know this isn't right. I know this is what I should be doing. I know this isn't who I am, but I can't do it anymore. Like I can't hold tight. Like I can't hold on to it anymore because the enemy has done nothing but beat me down. Guys, guilt is a part of life. We're going to have those moments where we feel guilty. We're going to have those moments where you say something to someone you know you shouldn't, and what happens immediately right after? You just want to you feel guilty. You just want to grab those words and say, I really shouldn't have said that. That probably wasn't the best way to respond. Or you're going to respond to something through action like that probably wasn't very good. There was no Jesus in that whatsoever, right? Like we make these situations, we have things that happen because guilt brings us to it. But guys, it kind of leads you to feeling like, did I make the right choice? Should I act the way that I should? I saw this. I said that guilt can either hold you back from growing or it can show you what you need to change in your life. Guilt can hold you back from growing, or it can keep you from seeing what you need to change into your life. And then, guys, when you deal with guilt, sometimes what comes to us, what the enemy can sometimes take our strongest parts of who we are and make us weak, is, guys, ultimately can come to our pride. It can come to our pride. Every single one of us have pride built inside of us. Every single one of us have pride that we struggle with. Every single one of us has something that we do, guys. The enemy knows our blueprint. The enemy knows what makes us weak. The enemy knows where we fall at. The enemy knows what makes us the weakest at the point. And as you look, guys, real quick, just to finish up his story, in verse 18, it says this. It said, Delilah realized he had finally told her the truth. So she sent the Philistine rulers, came back one more time. She said, for he has finally told me his secret. So the Philistine rulers returned with the money in hand. Delilah lulled Samson to sleep with his head in her lap. Then she called in a man to shave off all 7 locks of his hair. In this way, she began to bring him down, and his strength left him. Then she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. When he woke up, he thought, I will do as I was before and shake free. But then he realized that the Lord had left him. Guys, as the worship band comes back up, this is what I want you to focus on just real quick. As they walk up, I want you to look at that verse 20. It says, but he realized that the Lord had left him. Guys, God's going to be with you at all times. Guys, God's going to, even when those moments that you feel so far from him, through the things that you do, the actions that you make. But guys, when I read that verse, what I want you to kind of take away from that is that, guys, the Lord doesn't leave you, but sometimes you're so prideful in what you do and the actions that you make that you kind of distance yourself from God. You pull yourself away from who God is. And what ends up happening is just like Samson, the life that we're made to have, the life that we're made to be. Samson was given a gift from God. Samson had a plan for his life. Samson had everything ready to go. Samson had pretty much, God handed it to him on a silver platter. How many of you guys would just trade in everything to say, you know what, I wish I was the strongest person there was? There's so much you could do if I was just the strongest person in my entire school, strongest person in the city. Samson had this gift that was given to him, but because he just kind of squandered it away, because he allowed his guilt to chase him down, because he allowed himself to fall into temptation, because he allowed himself to feel guilted into giving things away, guys, Samson allowed his pride to be exactly what we've named this entire series about. Is that before the fall, guys, when he come to that point that he falls down, it's because of his pride, because of everything he did, because of everything he struggled with. And that's what I want you to kind of look at in your own life. Where in your life now do you allow yourself to be tempted into situations? Where in your life right now do you allow yourself to feel guilted into things? Where in your life right now do you allow your pride to kind of stand out the most? Or just sometimes, I need to swallow my pride just a little bit more. I need to back off just a little more. I need to keep myself from being tempted. I need to keep myself from being guilted into what I struggle with in life. I want you guys to bow your head with me tonight with all heads bowed and all eyes closed. Guys, you get ready to finish up. Guys, I know you're tired. I know right now a lot of you started out this year, you were excited, you were ready to go. You've been at it for months upon months, and guys, right now you feel like every strength in you, everything you got is gone. You're tired, you don't want to come home, you don't want to study, you're just ready to be done. You guys, it doesn't even have to be school related. Some of you guys have been involved in just family problems all school year long. You've been involved with relationship problems all year long. You've been involved with just drama with friends, with people that you just encountered, people that aren't even your friends, just the ones you sit in class with. You're just tired and you're ready to be done. And guys, right now the enemy's using that because each and every one of you have something special about you in this room. You guys have this relationship. You have this feeling. You're different. But the enemy uses that to kind of pull you away from God. The enemy uses that to change who you are, because right now they know if I just make them weak, then what they're going to do is they're not going to be able to witness to someone. They're not going to be able to show someone the relationship they have. If I can just show that even a believer, someone who has a relationship with Christ can just fall apart when everything else is gone. They don't lean on God. The enemy is just waiting for that moment. So where are you guys in your relationship? Do you allow life to beat you down? Do you allow the things that happen? Do you allow the craziness that sometimes feel like it just builds up and up and up to just separate you from God? Do you allow the enemy to just rip apart the armor that you've built up to keep those things from happening? Or guys, are you ready to change that? Are you ready to seek a relationship with God? Are you ready to ask God, hey, look, even in these moments that I feel tempted, God, the first thing I think about is you. In these moments that I feel guilty, the first thing I think about you is the moments that my pride is a factor. All I think about is you. Guys, don't leave here tonight. Don't finish the school year that way. Don't walk out of this room tonight without having a chance to ask Christ into your heart and say, you know what, God, I want to chase that. I want a relationship with you. And look, guys, all heads are bowed, all eyes are closed. If this is something you're ready to do, if you're ready to end your school year this way, I want to challenge you to put your hand up and say, you know what, Adam, I'm ready for a relationship with God right now. Just say, you know what, I'm ready for that. Guys, I see your hand there. I see it in the back. I see it in the middle. Guys, that's awesome. You just say, you know what, God, I need you to change my heart. God, every single week we thank you for the students that are sitting in this room, God. We thank you for God, we thank you for who they are, God, and we just ask that you continue to watch over them, Lord, because God, the weeks are long. God, the weeks are hard, and God, the enemy is just waiting to pounce on us like a roaring lion. The enemy is just waiting to take us down, God. And I just ask that you give the students that are in this room the strength, God, just to finish this year out right, to allow themselves not to be weak in those moments, God, to allow themselves to continue to be strong when the enemy just nags at us and beats us over and over and over again, and we feel like no matter what, it just doesn't get any better. God, I just ask that you make yourself apparent in their life, God. Show the change that is there, God. In your name we pray. Amen.